Welcome back to the shop. I've got a new toy for the kitchen. It is a Black & Decker electric saw for cutting turkey. We're going to do a prime rib and a turkey breast. Growing up, we've always had electric knives. Same knife forever and ever and ever. And as far as I know, it's never been sharpened. This one was brand new. I think it was $18. What I was thinking about last night before I went to bed was, why do these knives work so well? Why do they cut so cleanly, and what's the difference between this and a conventional knife? I sort of pride myself on keeping my kitchen knives sharp. I don't know how to measure how sharp this is. I could shave the hair on my arm, but what does that really tell you? The knives that I have, this is not an endorsement or anything, but I like the Mercer brand knives. They are reasonably priced and seem to work well. I sharpen them every time I wash them. I have a diamond hone, and I touch them up every time. So I'm not so much sharpening them as I am maintaining. I do have serrated knives, but predominantly I go to this regular kitchen knife, and I've got a couple oddball knives that I use for assorted purposes. So the question, the topic on this video is why do electric knives, electric serrated knives, cut so well? We know from John Fix and Scott Crafter's Challenge that serrated knives, especially this Echo Vanadium knife, is an excellent knife for cutting bread and cutting everything else. And obviously the difference is the style of blade profile. We can see that serrated works much better for bread and things like that. Why did they not choose to use a double-sided straight blade for this electric one as opposed to the double-sided serrated? So that's sort of what I'm going to delve into today. There's not going to be anything definitive, but I'm going to sort of show you what I think was going on with these in terms of, the pressures and whatnot. So with that being said, the obvious distinction to me, and I look forward to the comments on this, so feel free to correct me and discuss how this is working in the comments, but the difference between a serrated knife and a straight bladed knife is going to be the pressure that you exert on any given piece of material. If you can see, I don't know how to show this, but we can see that we have very little bit of, high pressures, super high pressures in terms of just the points are touching this. And that extra high force is going to do a better job at cutting through the material, as opposed to a flat blade that distributes its weight over the material like a snowshoe almost. So you rely on the sharpness of cutting through areas, large surface areas with a straight knife, as opposed to a serrated knife, which not artificially, but practically exerts much higher forces on top of those areas. To demonstrate briefly, I've got this old pill bottle, and I can take this to the pill bottle and easily slice through that, no problem. Now this straight knife, with the same pressure, does not want to cut through this plastic bottle. That's because I'm exerting force across the entirety of this bottle as it flattens out with the pressure I'm pushing down, as opposed to this one, which is only hitting the high spots, and that's multiplying that force by quite a bit, and it's able to go right through much faster. So it's just a matter of the pressures exerted on the material. If we imagine this was a loaf of bread, I don't need to press very hard for this to work. And I wouldn't crush it if this was bread. However, if I chose to cut this loaf of bread with this material, I had to push down and it would in turn flatten the bread. That's why all bread knives are serrated. We know from the rest of the shop that we have other kind of actions that might be in play. These are bypass shears. Bypass meaning that the blades go past one another, as do these blades. They go past one another. That is different than an anvil style cutter, which closes flat on the material. It does not bypass. And of course the simplest of all is a typical saw, which is going to pull through, rip, and tear. And the swarf from that would be, while you could cut your turkey with Sawzall, it would create a lot of byproduct that you wouldn't want to eat. There'd be pieces of turkey everywhere. So with this, what I think's happening, let me disassemble it, is that we have the extra high pressures going on from the serrated tip in conjunction with that sawing action, which is going to act in a way like these bypass shears. So he's going to bypass the blades and shear the turkey very cleanly, and it's going to limit the amount of downward pressure that you need to have, so you're not going to smash the turkey because of the high pressures of those points. Furthermore, from some of the vlogs that I've read, the knife, the interesting thing about the shape of a serrated blade is that when you hit something hard, if I wanted to saw this handle off of here, it would dull the tips. The handle's not a great example, but it's going to dull the tips of the serrated knife, and it's going to leave the concave section, the downward section, sharp for longer. So that's why my parents have had the same electric knife since the dawn of time, because the tips are undoubtedly horribly dull. However, those humps in between the blades haven't impacted anything extraordinarily hard over the years, so they've remained sharp. So you have these sharp blades that are protected by the tips, bypassing one another in a shearing action with the additional downward pressure of those points that allow you to cut cleanly through the turkey. I do not have a turkey to demonstrate on at this point, but I thought while these were nice and clean and new, I would bring it out in the shop and talk about this briefly. And I'd like to hear anybody else's thoughts and input on these knives, and if they think there's some part of this action, some part of this design that I did not cover, to sort of help us all understand why these knives are so great. They're not necessary for everyday means, but from what I've read, they're excellent for food prep things. And from some of the things I've seen at the competition cooks, the people that cut briskets and cut all the other things use a knife like this because you don't have to smash everything down to cut it. And you can get by with a very, very sharp knife if you're skilled with it. There's no reason why you can't cut a turkey up with this knife here. However, if you didn't have a sharp knife, you weren't fastidious about keeping things sharp in your kitchen, this is the simplest, easiest, no-brainer solution to have a knife that's going to cut cleanly, sharply for a protracted period of time. So that's all I've got for today. I suppose I should probably cut something up. Don't tell Catherine I did this. So I was trying to find something that was delicate to cut that might demonstrate, act as a proxy for a turkey or a loaf of bread. Since I don't have a turkey at hand or a loaf of bread, let's try to cut this roll of toilet paper. I guess let's start with this electric knife. So the electric knife worked pretty good. That's pretty impressive. And not a lot of swarf in the scheme of things. We can see that there's just a little bit of byproduct. I had to go around in a circular motion, but I've never cut a roll of toilet paper before, so that's pretty impressive. Let's try a typical knife. So that cut is extremely clean. However, we can see that the pressure that I had to exert on it, I had to oval it out. If this was a loaf of bread, it would have been a Cuban sandwich. So that didn't work. Let's try the John Fix knife, regular serrated knife. Well, that started off really well, but I ended up tearing through and smashing the roll, so that was not ideal. That tearing force, you know, not like a saw, but it's not ideal. And then lastly, you would have the regular saw style. And wow, it's getting harder to hold on to. You could imagine that the cut is going to be just a complete nightmare. I don't think I really need to. Yeah, I'm just murdering this. So you don't want to cut a turkey with a sawzall either. But that's it. That's my theories, my ruminations on how a electric knife works. It's an ingenious design. I think the extra forces of the points in conjunction with the bypass action of the blades does an excellent job to cut turkeys and meats and rolls of toilet paper. So I hope everybody has an excellent Thanksgiving. Thanks for watching. Have a great holiday.